I've got this nice, wonderful new MacBook, and it works really well. I'm not complaining too much, but there is a narrative out there that these new machines are generating issues that one would not come to expect from Apple. So in this case, I mean, I guess this issue where it didn't record the video could have just happened on any machine, and it's not as if they're perfect, so these things can happen. But I found it curious that that it did, and one other area that I wanted to go into in terms of this machine, in terms of trying to troubleshoot things, is the keyboard, because there's been a lot spoken about these butterfly mechanism keyboards on the current refresh, and that people don't like them, they don't like typing on them, they're too loud. But there was a thread that I started seeing, YouTube videos, comments, etc., that said that it was prone to you typing a lot more errors, and I actually started to encounter this practically. So I'm fairly aware of how well I type, and I was getting to the point where it was effectively creating an error every 5 or 6 words. And,
wow.
and forcing me to slow down my typing to make sure of what was going on. Now, I did a lot more research, so hopefully this will help some of you who aren't aware of this. Hopefully a lot of you have already worked this out. And I can't believe that I had to do this, because this to me feels like a Windows PC 90s type fix, where you have to go in and you have to figure out how to switch something off in some deep setting somewhere. Now, now, as it turns out, if you go into System Preferences, hit the Keyboard Preferences pane, and then switch off everything related to autocorrect, that pretty much solves 99% of the issue. So I did that after reading about it on a couple of forums, and now I'm back to typing pretty much the way I was before, and actually I don't have an issue with the keyboard now. So... But the fact is that I thought macOS was meant to take care of this sort of stuff without you thinking about it. I've been using Macs for about 11 years now, and I've never had to do that. So I don't know what you think about that, Steve, but it just seems, I mean, and literally it wasn't just one setting like autocorrect. There were 5 or 6 in the keyboard settings that had to be switched off in order for this to occur. And I actually didn't find it acceptable, really. Because the fact that, I mean, I know my way around a computer, and the fact that I had to go and research the solution, how's that going to fly with people that, aren't as tech savvy, for instance?
Well, look, this has been creeping into our dialogue around Apple now for probably the last couple of years. I mean, even the fact now that, there's a fair chance that you'll need a YouTube video to work out how to use Final Cut 10, or, you'll need to use a YouTube video to find out what to turn on or off to fix a problem. Historically, that's not Apple, right? And that goes right back 30 years of Apple.
It just works, right?
It just, back to the Macintosh, it just works, and it doesn't. And I think the only time that I can think of would have been in the mid-90s, just before Steve Jobs came back, and we started to see these sorts of things. We saw a proliferation of products that nobody actually quite knew what the difference between any of the models of Macs were. We're kind of seeing that now, and there are also starting to be these little fiddly things creeping into the OS. And, sure, it's a lot more complicated today, but I just think, Apple could stick with their high price point, they could stick with their premium brand, but it'll all come undone if it just doesn't work. And that's it's meant out of the box, it's just meant to work.